All right, everybody, welcome to the WayFinder podcast. It's July 25th, 2020, and today I'll be talking about education for professional life. And these are the things I would like to have known when I was getting into undergraduate about 10 years ago, and things that I didn't know too much about. And I'm going to this is again training myself as I get back into the workforce, and also if anybody needs it, I hope it's helpful for you. Before I begin, I'm going to read sort of the last bit of Skin in the Game by Nassim Taleb. There's a series of rules, soft or hard rules, that I really like, and the last thing you read before you close the book of Skin in the Game, and that's the last in the inserto. Anyways, here goes. No muscles without strength, friendship without trust, opinion without consequences, change without aesthetics, age without values, life without effort, water without thirst, food without nourishment, love without sacrifice, power without fairness, facts without rigor, statistics without logic, mathematics without proof, teaching without experience, politeness without warmth, values without embodiment, degrees without erudition, militarism without fortitude, progress without civilization, friendship without investment, virtue without risk, probability without ergodicity, wealth without exposure, complication without depth, fluency without content, decisions without symmetry, science without skepticism, religion without tolerance, and most of all, nothing without skin in the game. And I love that because that's sort of how it's not all of how I've approached life, but the notion of having skin in the game and doing things where you have your risk is exposed, and you're sort of, because a big notion that Nassim sort of talks about in the book is that learning is really difficult if you don't have skin in the game, if you don't have something to get from it or lose from it. And that's sort of my approach to professional life, is that you should go into domains, areas in which you can in fact apply your full self because you have skin in the game. And to do that, the world of professionalism, sometimes we give up what we quote unquote love because we want to make more money, but in the long run I've noticed that could cause a lot of harm. So with this sort of tips on professional education, sort of how do you go about life preserving what you love and living with skin in the game, while sure trying to maneuver the game like nature of capitalism, and not capitalism per se, but the market of jobs and getting. Okay, so in this episode, I'll be sharing some tips that my career counselor gave me while helping me begin the job search. I'm currently in the job search right now. And I'll also be sharing some lessons I've learned while going through trying to find a job in the market, in the professional world. And I'm going to treat this sort of as a case study for my 17-year-old self who went into university, who had sort of a vague idea what he wanted to do, but not really a way to actualize it. And over the past 10 years, I've done a lot of different things. I was in grad school for a long time, but in that time, I was doing a lot of different things, and I've learned a lot about how the professional world works. I'm raring to put it all into action, and I'm working on that. So as I delve back into the job market, I'm treating my career as a journey and not a destination, and one that I plan to exit from once I can get to pursue my vocation full time and directly. And by that I mean, so I'll delve more into what I mean by vocation. But vocation is the thing that you have skin in the game. It's sort of your craft and your artisanal thing, and most of the job market robs people of that, right? Most people end up sacrificing what they love to do, what will make them the most money, because they have to eat, and you have to eat. But what I've as I'm looking around, and in this sort of downtime, it's not really downtime because I'm working on my writing and trying to do social media marketing. It's teaching me that you can make a life while also pursuing what you love, and it's that's what we should, as educators. I was once trying to be an educator, and as educators, that's what we should be pushing our students towards, is how can they maximize their lives, how can they get the most out of it, while also getting enough money to survive, right? And that's what educators, I think, are missing the point on, from high school level to university level. And at a certain level, I guess that is not even a role of a teacher. A teacher is just to get in there and give you the best content. But what is all that content for if it's not helping you have a better professional life, as in make money and pursue the things that give you, for lack of a better word, skin in the game. What is life without that? For me, I left my job in March due to some issues I had with management. But and had to do with sort of administrative issues, which I like when work is difficult, but when it's managerial stuff, then that's something I wasn't ready for, and I made the seemingly difficult choice to leave, but it wasn't difficult. They made it sort of easy for me to leave, so I left. And so before I began the job search, I took some time and space for myself. I began to write and create this podcast, and it's been a very thrilling experience. But before this catch on, and I can make some sales, I need to get back on the job market. And so this is where my career counselor will come in. So fortunately, a family friend, is a career and life counselor, and we sat down together over 6 weeks, 6 sessions, and she really gave me new eyes through which to see the job and career space. And although I had a bit of all this information in passing, she gave me a good structure on which to view it, and she introduced me to the term vocation. And vocation is that space where you're pursuing what you want to be pursuing, and also earning some income out of it. So right now I'm writing and creating this podcast. It's not really profitable yet, but it's giving me real fulfillment, and and although I'm going to work a job, I'm going to be working my hardest to make sure that I can sort of make it so that my vacation is in fact my job and my career. So for most of my brief adult life, I had been chasing the alignment in all these three job categories, or unbeknownst to me actually. So I wanted to be a professor in the university level, which will allow me to have time to teach, write, and do scientific research. I saw this as my job, my career, my vacation. It was my everything. And foolishly, after I dropped out of grad school, I thought that it was all over for me. And that's a deep thing that I see with a lot of peers who have strong interest in undergrad, but then get into the job market and start working a job, and it seems like jobs take over entirely and they're not able to pursue other things. So maybe this could be useful for them too, actually. But luckily, with the tips I gained from my career counselor, I've been able to think more deeply into how to restructure my life and to make way for my vacation and eventually turn it into a money-making enterprise. Because while in this job search and career seeking period, I've also learned learned through a lot of teachers that the best way to move forward will be to begin a business that extricates me from the job market. And by that, I mean that the way the economy is moving forward, a job is not going to be sufficient, or maybe it's going to be, but the way the jobs are structured, it's not natural to the way the human operates. Schedules and living on sort of 9-to-5 schedule sort of robs you of the fullness and variety of life, and also living sort of off of your own, using your own products to get you capital, then in fact makes you a capitalist in this world. And that sort of the should be the end game for most of professional individuals nowadays. It shouldn't be to work a job, because again, the way it's looking, Social Security may not last. Corporations are very, very volatile in the sense that they're not entirely, I guess, aligned with the best interest of the employees. Employees are labor, and if labor needs to be cut, labor will be cut. And it's not that I believe that having a supervisor is the worst thing in the world. I just believe that more value can be created when one is working for themselves to bring something valuable into the world. It also gives you a better accounting of your time and energy. This is also the best way to generate capital. Like I said, generate capital in the world, because the world is it's becoming more segregated into those who have capital and those who do not have capital. And that's what I'm noticing, is that a lot of the issues in the world with race and opportunity and even gender issues is due to the fact that some groups of people are generating a lot more of the capital, and they have more of the capital, and sort of there's this deep sort of resentment of that. And it's like, well, instead of having that resentment, what we should be doing is restructuring our education system from the high school level, the university level, and even at the professional level in such a way that people can then in fact become their own employees and then start generating their own capital, give people means, sort of a direct contact with the economy. And what I would notice with that is that there's a lot of variability there. Is that most people don't have to be an entrepreneur, I'm a nascent entrepreneur, but I'm noticing that the variance of being an entrepreneur and is high, and not a lot of people have the nerve for that, for one, and for two, to be in that sort of space is sort of, in the words of Nassim Taleb, it's extremistan. It's a domain where sometimes you may try, and you may not win big, right? So the winning big happens. It's a fat tail sort of situation where, by that I mean that the probability of, it's not normally probably, it's not, the distribution of success isn't normally distributed. It's skewed way, it's skewed in such a way that it has a fat tail. And what that means is that although the you can't, how do I explain this simply, you can't exactly say that the odds of success are evenly distributed among everybody. Some people will be successful. Some people, there it is. Some people, when one person succeeds, they succeed big, and most people fail. And that's the issue, is that we should also be preparing young people to understand that if they want to be successful in sort of extremist domains like art, entertainment, even technology, right? It takes getting ready for sort of the extreme the large variabilities that occur there, and sort of the nature of extremistan, and that's where I'll sort of go into my approach and how I'm going to, it's not a novel approach, but it's the approach that will work best for me while I pursue my writing. um, yeah. So okay, so on to treating myself as sort of a case study. Then, so now how am I going about doing this? So now the first step for me is I guess I'll just say the big picture here is that my writing and podcasting, and my writing is chiefly actually is sort of where I'm trying to make it big, right? I want to succeed there, and I think everybody should have a domain like that in their lives. And it's, what I've noticed is that it's easy to structure into your life when you're something that you're ready for and you're aiming for, right? But then a job should be seen as just protecting your downside. A job, this is what I wish somebody had told me when I was younger, is that getting a job, I should have worked to get a job just to protect my downside, while working on increasing my opportunity to success by continuing my writing, working on marketing and sales, right? And that's sort of what I'm going to do moving forward. And this is something that if any young person walked up to me, I was like, how should I approach moving forward with my career and job? I'll tell them, don't chase the managerial roles and trying to be a CEO of somebody else's corporation. Work hard at your job, but make it such that your 9 to 5 doesn't define your whole life. And that's essentially what this is all about, really. I realized that I was trying to align all three, so that by being a professor in the university, such that my 9 to 5 was my all in all, and for various respects, that is not the best way to go. But again, I want to make money in such a way that I am not entirely free from the capitalist system, but in such a way that my vocation and my direct energy and my time and what I love to do is in fact what's getting me a lot of money. So back to treating myself as a case study. So the first question I'm about to ask myself in this process is like, how do I align? So I've gained a lot of skills through my education. So how do I align those with those of an employer, and how do I develop my skills for sort of a long-term career? And simultaneously, how do I build some income from my vocation? So just briefly, my plan is, and this is also a record to hold myself accountable, is that basically there's a high cost for scaling oneself. So I don't want to go through that option unless I have to, right? So sort of I've gained a lot of skills, but a job, and that's the thing about the job market is, and this is another thing that I've noticed about the job market that I'd like to share to any sort of young person listening, is that you're largely playing defense unless you know people in the company that you're working for, that you want to work for, or something like that. But largely you're applying into a system that you may not even know anybody in, and you're largely just putting in applications and you're hoping that something hits, right? And that is playing defense. And even when you start working for the corporation, you're working for systems that you're not entirely beholden to, right? And as such, you don't want to get caught in the working in corporation trap. You want to sort of learn to extricate yourself from it. So anyways, so the job search is largely a waiting game unless you have, like I said, inroads and collection. So that's why developing your vocation and something you can do that can earn you money and earn you freedom, really, while you wait or work is really the way to go. So in short, and this is what I'll be doing. I did a skills assessments, and I found inroads to sort of to that I can use to apply for jobs. This has led me down the road of research analyst, research coordinator. My time in academia working on research has largely given me these skills to work as those jobs. However, the hard part is yeah, so it's convincing a industry that I'm blind to their processes that I can translate what I've learned. Because what I've learned as you go higher in academia, you sort of narrow in terms of what you're studying. But those skills that you gain in studying as a specific subject can be applied generally. You just have to convince the company. So this is the area that I think that I'm currently working on. Is what we're working on. We're working my resume and reaching out to various companies and crafting strong, specific cover letters. And the lucky part is, and this is the key thing that this is another key thing that I wish that I got sort of as a side effect of the work I was doing, but most people don't have, is that I developed a portfolio of scientific papers and some other research and engineering papers that I created, that I wrote throughout my times in academia, that sort of give me what I believe is an edge, because I can say, here's work I've done and here's what kind of work I can do. Because it's not just a skill on a resume, it's the given product on it. And that's how I'm choosing to market myself with my portfolio and my cover letter, is that this is what I have done and here's how I can do more of that in the future. So to those listening in sort of the early stage of applying for a job, I would suggest building up your portfolio and organizing your resume in such a way as and especially your cover letter in such a way that you can fit into that role. Because and that's another thing with sort of a job that is sort of maybe good for some people, but I've noticed that not for me. It's usually trying to fit a circle into a square peg, and it doesn't always work. And as such, I have to find other outlets to do other things, and that's fine. If you find yourself to be a square peg fitting into a square hole, and that works for you, that also works. But I'm just trying to say that in the long term, it takes you out of the game, and you see it as this corporation and less of yourself, and you become caught up in political things of the profession as opposed to generating real value in the world. So anyways, what I found out is that although no roles perfectly fit me, I can make tweaks to sort of to fit in. And this is largely a pragmatic approach. And this is an approach I didn't understand when I was first going to university. I went to university not with a pragmatic approach, but more with a romanticized version of how the world will work. And I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but the pragmatic approach really is the best approach for for most early career, because the job and the career is largely pragmatic. It's not going to offer real fulfillment in life. It's not really going to, and this is not for everybody, obviously, but if okay, this is not for everybody. For those who want to pursue a vocation, a job is not going to bring you real fulfillment in life, not all the time, because you have to eat and you have to provide shelter, you have to pay bills, and you have to do things. But a job can give you the downside that can let you breathe while you pursue your different opportunities for your vocation. And that's the hardest part. So having a downside, having a job that's not too taxing, but can get you fed is good for a while. It's good for a while. So as with most people in the develop world, I feel, and this is another thing. I'm not saying this. I don't have any hard data, but I've talked to a lot of people, and I've been in universities for a long time, and I've gotten a large sampling from people. And by talking to a lot of people, everyone sort of seems to have an area which they would rather spend their time than being in an office, right? And my call specifically is to be a writer and a poet, and that's the thing. The areas that the individuals want to sort of go into that isn't office rigidized in, is hard to make money in. right? It's there areas like writing, poetry, sculpture, art, even technology, right? It's hard to be, and that's the thing. I think Ryan Holiday says this on his podcast, The Daily Stoic, that to be a writer in this day and age, you have to be an entrepreneur, and that's the thing. Entrepreneur areas are hard to sell and market in. Unless your idea is unless you're a unicorn company, and those are exactly, they're called that because they're rare. So my suggestion is, so while, for me at least, while I work to find a job, I'm finding ways to stretch my creative energies and work on the artifacts I want to sell. And in this age, we're really lucky that the means of production in this domain is largely easily accessible and the barrier to entry is quite low. However, that's also the problem, right? The problem is, how do you then stand out? And this is where learning bits of marketing and sales and social media marketing is the way to go. So what I've done is I've created a small LLC that I'm using to sell my work, and I'm using other avenues online to reach out and create opportunity. And that's the key thing, is that the hard work of I think that's going to come up in the 21st century is how to carve out a piece of the market for yourself. And I'm not saying this because I discovered it. Actually, I'm saying this because I discovered this newly for myself. Going into university as a young undergrad, I thought I would I didn't actually had no real idea of what I would do. I sort of MacGyvered my way through it and found an academic professor. But now I'm sort of looking at a blank sheet again. It's sort of, okay, I really have to be, for lack of a better word, intentional as to how I structure my life. And I don't want to work in an office for the rest of my life. I want to be able to go write and speak and perform my work and share my work with other people, because I think it's of value to the world. But to do that, I need to work on building an audience and sort of reaching out there and then hope and lock falls on myself, but also create opportunity in sort of in offline and online. And I think this is going to be the key thing for the 21st century. And so if I'm speaking to anybody now, what I'm going to say is that find a craft, find not because partly you can't depend on sort of the job and career system to sustain you for the rest of your life. Partly because it's unfulfilling and it's unnatural, a way to work, but also because if you kill the sort of the fire in yourself for creating stuff, then you sort of start to kill off parts of yourself. And although you can substitute that with loving family and good friends, in my experience, it's not entirely enough. And the key thing to know is that it'll take a while, but by working smartly and diligently, I think it's possible to make gains like many others have done, right? But again, it's not going to happen overnight, and it may never happen, right? And that's another key thing to keep in mind. That's why you should. There's a new person I'm following on Twitter, and he talks about diversifying with small bets. So try different things and work on different avenues, but know what your sort of your craft is, or using your craft, work on different avenues to sell and market it, right? And that's the other big benefit of the time we live in, is that there are many people out there willing to give help and tips, and the key driver to success is whether you can really build an audience and find a place to market and sell, right? And find people who are willing to give you their attention. But and that's sort of the big thing I was going to say here with regards to what I would tell a young me if it was going into the university, is that while, because the university, Jordan Peterson has said this, is that it's sort of time for you to relax and not really relax. That's the wrong word. It's a time you have to really grow yourself and really work on something. So if you use that time wisely to develop a set of skills that can get you a job, but in the meantime, working on a vacation, getting yourself out there, seeking opportunities when you can really craft a market out for yourself. And I'm going to put this to the test over the next 10 years of my life. I'm going to outline my skills and get a job in the market somehow. And then really work on my craft and really work on seeking opportunities out there and seeing what hits and learning from those examples and really paying attention to it, right? Because my brief experience in the job market is that, because I had a job and they basically, for lack of a better word, railroaded me for a while there. And it's like, if I don't want to go through that experience again. So I'm preparing myself. Opening myself up to an upside while understanding that I need a job to protect my downside. So yeah, so that about wraps up the podcast. I hope it was helpful, particularly with understanding that a job and a career need not be a vocation, right? And so sort of to the romantics. So to the young romantics is that if your vocation doesn't pan out in the first few years of trying it out, you don't give up. You find a way to get a job, and you don't go the way of Van Gogh, right? Don't go the way of Van Gogh of saying that your art is all that matters. Don't go the way of the dying artist. That's not the way to go. Find a way to market your work online, sell it, but also get a job to protect your downside so you can still survive in this world. And to those who are more pragmatic and don't really see the need to develop a sort of by pragmatic I mean they want to get a job and sort of stay in that sort of security. That's fine, because being entrepreneurial is not for everybody. However, if you do have an itch you want to scratch, or find a way to sort of break yourself beyond the mold of the 9 to 5, there are opportunities out there to do that, and I hope you would consider doing a little bit of that, because there's more value to be created in the world by doing that than just working in a corporation. And so yeah, that's what I've learned about the professional world, and I hope that helps. All right, thanks for listening. Goodbye.